everyone. In this video, I'll be explaining C3 cycle to you. See, C3 cycle in itself is not that long topic, so we'll be recalling few things which are related to this and we have studied before this in NCRT. Alright, so firstly, let's talk about the light reaction because Kelvin cycle has two important ingredients, you can say, which comes from light reaction, okay, the biosynthetic phase. Light reaction forms two things, which is ATP and NADPH. uh, See, for formation of NADPH there are two things, non-cyclic photophosphorylation and cyclic. In cyclic photophosphorylation, NADPH is not formed since it takes place on the stromal lamellae, which lacks the NADP reductase enzyme. One important point, okay. And if we talk about non-cyclic, then both are formed. What happens is दोनों की बात साइमल्टेनियसली करेंगे. We'll talk about the formation of ATP as well as NADPH. Okay, so when the sun light falls on a plant, then electron gets excited. Now primary acceptor for PS2 is not actually an electron carrier, but it is an proton carrier, right? So what it does while transferring an electron, it creates a proton gradient by picking up matlab it passes the electron further, okay, but it takes the proton from stroma and puts it into lumen for exchange, okay. Matlab in place when it gives its electron, to it transports a proton from stroma to lumen. Moreover, splitting of this water also takes place, wherein it takes place on the inner side of the membrane, right? So whatever is formed falls in the lumen of thylakoid. तो protons भी वहाँ पे बनते हैं, so they also accumulate inside the lumen, creating a proton gradient across the thylakoid membrane, which then chemiosmotic hypothesis के according ATP formation occurs. Okay, ATP synthase enzyme is present on the thylakoid membrane. When the protons move along the concentration gradient and pass through that ATP synthase enzyme, it catalyzes, basically enzyme catalyzes this enzyme catalyzes the formation of ATP. So जब वो move करते हैं तो ATP बन जाता है उसके साथ, right? So this is the story of ATP formation. Now talking about NADPH, what happens is, I told you NADP reductase enzyme is required for this, okay. So this enzyme, if non-cyclic photophosphorylation takes place, then NADPH will be formed, okay. Because NADP plus is present, now electrons will come and the enzyme will act, and then it will form NADPH, okay. This is what happens in granule membrane, but stromal membrane lamellae lacks this, so no formation of this. So we say cyclic photophosphorylation takes place when only PS1 is functional. Why? Because PS1 has what photosystem? 700 nanometer, right? So photosystem 2 has this chlorophyll molecule, right, which has its peak at 700 nanometer. So 700 nanometer means higher wavelength as compared to PS2, which has a 680 nanometer wavelength. So since wavelength is more then energy is less, तो होगा क्या basically, जब energy कम मिलेगी तो सिर्फ PS1 functional होगा, है ना. अगर एनर्जी ज़्यादा है तो ऑब्वियसली, अगर एनर्जी ज़्यादा है यानी कि PS2 एक्टिवेट हो गया है तो PS1 तो हो ही गया होगा, मतलब इलेक्ट्रॉन वहाँ से ऑलरेडी इजेक्ट हो गया होगा. तो दिस इज़ द स्टोरी, ओके. नाउ we have concluded how ATP and NADPH is formed. Now talking about this finally, C3 cycle. See, two cycles take place basically, C3 and C4, okay. पर C3 cycle में क्या होता है, what is the characteristic feature is, the first stable product formed in this cycle is a 3 carbon compound which is 3-phosphoglycerate, okay. This is a 3 carbon compound. See, the main substrate is ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate, okay, which is a 5 carbon molecule. This combines with atmospheric CO2. One molecule of CO2 reacts with this to form See, this is total 6 carbon. Now, it was earlier thought that something has to be, since this is a 3 carbon compound, the first stable compound, so this has to be 2 carbon molecules so as to form this, okay? But actually it was found that this is actually a 5 carbon molecule, right? So 2 molecules of this thing, 3 PGA PGL is formed, okay? 2 molecules of 3 carbon, this is formed as the first step, okay? In presence of what enzyme? RUBP, carboxylase oxygenase. And one thing which is related to this is when carboxylase is in abundance, then it reacts with CO2. But in some cases, if oxygen is present in excess, then the enzyme can bind oxygen also, which leads to photorespiration, okay? The wasteful process. All right. That's a different story. So the first step, basically C3 cycle involves 3 steps, right? The first step was this, carboxylation. Okay, this combines with the atmospheric carbon to form this molecule. Now the second step of this cycle is reduction. Okay, होगा क्या? The ATP, 2 molecules of ATP, okay, 2 molecules of ATP along with 2 molecules of NADPH will combine with this, releasing this thing. ये टूटा फिर बनेगा क्या? ट्रायोस फॉस्फेट, ओके? नाउ इससे क्या होगा? ये सिर्फ ये पूरी एक साइकिल, अच्छा वेट, लेट मी कंप्लीट दिस देन आई विल टेल यू। ये ट्रायोस फॉस्फेट बना, अब ये तो बन गया, ये हमें चाहिए, ये फर्दर ये सब बना लेगा जाके, यही हमें चाहिए, बट ये सिर्फ एक साइकिल हुई है और सिर्फ एक CO2 मॉलिक्यूल का कंजम्पशन हुआ है, तो इससे एक कार्बन मॉलिक्यूल का होगा। अगर हमें ग्लूकोज बनाना है या सुक्रोज बनाना है, या तो ये तो मतलब आइसोमेरेज से इंटरचेंज हो जाते हैं ग्लूकोज ऐसे, ठीक है? तो ये 6 कार्बन मॉलिक्यूल है, तो दिस साइकिल हैज़ टू रन 6 टाइम्स, राइट? दिस साइकिल विल रन 6 टाइम्स। तो 6 टाइम्स रन करने के लिए हमें वापस से ये चाहिए, सो एज टू कंटिन्यू दिस साइकिल। सो the most important step which is actually there in the process is regeneration. This has to take place, which requires 1 ATP. Total 3 ATPs are required in one cycle, 3 ATPs and 2 molecules of NADPH, okay? Regeneration हुआ, वापस ये बना, now the cycle will continue. Again it will combine with CO2, form this compound, then this will form this, and then this will go on जब तक एक मॉलिक्यूल, अभी सिर्फ एक मॉलिक्यूल बना है ना, बहुत सारे ऐसे मॉलिक्यूल्स बनते होंगे। नाउ ग्लूकोज का एक मॉलिक्यूल बन गया। अब वो ऐसे क्वेश्चन इस पे आते हैं कि एक बस आपको, दिस इज़ द जिस्ट, इज दिस विजिबल? ओके, दिस इज़ द जिस्ट ऑफ द होल साइकिल, ठीक है? See, one cycle requires this. So when you are asked about one glucose, तो 6 cycles, 3 into 6, 18 ATPs, and 2 into 6, 12 NADPH molecules. Simple, okay? So I hope you got what all I said. It has become a bit messy, but I hope you understood.